With the news that Susan Wojcicki is stepping down from her CEO position in YouTube, it got me thinking about Kathleen Kennedy, who is the CEO of Star Wars. With Kathleen Kennedy's rule for a decade, and I should have made a video on the decade of Disney Star Wars in, I believe, November of 2022, but I had a hacking problem, so I completely just missed that opportunity, and I do feel bad because I would have done something for that, but I completely forgot about it, and I actually did for like a couple months afterwards until like a couple of days ago. I'm like, oh yeah, Lucasfilm under Disney has been around for a decade now, so I probably should do something about that, and I might as well cover all the major stuff that's happened with the company from 2012 to now. Now, these decisions like that are major ones. I'm not covering every small little thing that's happened, because obviously that would just take way too long. So I'm just covering all the major, big things that really, changed the franchise and how Lucasfilm operates. The first things first is obviously the removal of the expanded universe. If you didn't know, a lot of the stuff prior to Disney buying Star Wars was in its own canon, and there's this layered canon structure. I'm not going to explain it because I don't really memorize it because it's not really relevant anymore. Now the first major blow, because for people who grew up in the 90s, Star Wars was those books, like the Thrawn trilogy. Those books. And those childhoods, people's childhoods were just thrown away. But the next thing that's kind of connected to the first thing is that the whole entire, everything that is part of the franchise, whether it be a show, movie, video game, comic book, are all part of the same timeline. The hierarchy was replaced with another one. And at first, there was no hierarchy. What I mean is, stuff that was in comic books over years have been replaced or have been changed. Whether that be the rewritten history of Kanan Jarrus's, how he escaped Order 66, how that happened. The Bad Batch were not involved in that, but in the comic book, it was different from how it was in the show. And, stuff like that, where the stuff in the books aren't really what they are in the show. They're not really referenced, because there is a new hierarchy, which was not implemented when it originally started, but as all these different authors and filmmakers and people who work on the shows and everything like that, they don't work together in harmony. They're working on their own projects with their own version of what Star Wars is and their canon and all the stuff like that. It's just how Lucasfilm works, and that's kind of another thing that kind of annoys people. I don't know, granted to a lesser extent, because it's not really a big deal. I don't expect everything to be mentioned or referenced to in the newest show or book or video game. It's just too much, Let the story be told first, then all the Easter eggs second. The third thing then is actually Star Wars Rebels. Now Rebels was actually the first watchable content ever that Disney ever put out, Disney ever put out. It's crazy. It came out in 2014, a year before The Force Awakens, and people did not like it. Now I should say, I did watch Rebels, and even the beginning part, the first season, and it's not as bad as you would think it would be. Now, I'd say the first half of season 1 is bad. It's very childish. But then in the second half, it gets reduced. The characters become somewhat likable, and there is a story being told. Granted, it's very, what's the word here? Cliched. But it still gets the job done. And the show did become better as time went on. Which goes into our fourth thing, which is the actual sequel trilogy. That stuff was not received well. And yeah, there's a streak of stuff not being well received. And a lot of what Lucasfilm has done was not received well. But we'll get to some positive things. Don't worry, I will. But when it comes to the sequel trilogy, the idea of having 3 separate directors make 3 individual films with no overlap in between the development is a horrible idea, and I remember making a video on that a couple years ago and how horrible that is, and it still is. No one's replicated that because it's a horrible idea. Any studio looked at Disney Star Wars and went, yeah, we're not doing that. Let's not do that. And no one has ever done it ever since, and thank God, because it's horrible. You get an unfinished, just whatever, like, not even consistent trilogy. Like, there's so many, like, unlogical things that happen. I'm not even getting into it. It's just there's so many unlogical things, so many plot holes. Nothing, very little stuff makes sense. Like, anything that makes sense is a complete and giant coincidence. Like, that is horrible. But at least the films are watchable, I guess. Individually, they're fine. Like, it's just, this billion-dollar company just fumbled a trilogy that is famous as Star Wars. Like, it's crazy how no one cares. No one cares. I'm under the impression that Kathleen Kennedy and everyone at Lucasfilm wanted to just get revenge on George Lucas. They probably hated him. I'm under the impression that they did. Because why else would they just make a sequel trilogy and ruin his brand? You know? It's not like he's dead. He's still alive. He saw his demise. Like, his creation was just demised. You know? Like, what the hell? I guess I should talk about something good. The spin-off films are good. That's something that I think Kathleen Kennedy handled, were the spin-off films. I'm under the impression that was her idea or someone else. But the idea of having these spin-off films like Rogue One, Solo are very good. Now, they should make more of these, because just because one film flopped, which was Solo, didn't mean you had to scrap the idea. I mean, technically you're still going to do it anyway, whatever the next film is going to be, but, you know, maybe do more of those, because audiences like those. Another thing are the Disney Plus shows. I liked them. I mean, I know people don't like Disney Plus shows because Marvel kind of like ruined the kind of unique feeling of a show that's tied to a brand, because they keep making product after product every month or so. But with Star Wars, it's different. You get something different every time a new show comes out. Whether that be the Mandalorian or the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, Book of Boba Fett, and or the Ahsoka show, like, all those are different. They give you a different experience, different characters, different mythology, whether it be the Force or talking about the rebellion or some trauma that a character experienced. Like, there's something different in every one of those shows, and I like that. And that's, you know, thanks to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who worked on it and actually care about the lore, the story, what George Lucas has built. And you see a stark difference between how they handled the Disney Plus shows, where J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson did not really care, really. They just used it to further their reputation in the film industry. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but look, Lucasfilm has done some good stuff. If I talk about the video games, Jedi Fallen Order, that series is going well. So, yeah, also Battlefront 2 had a rough start, but DICE, same as Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, they had passion for the lore, the story, and they made a game that was very fun to play. It got wacky, where you had Darth Vader fighting Rey on Kamino. It didn't make sense. It was wacky, it was crazy, and it's so much fun. And that's kind of it with the decade of Lucasfilm and with Disney. It's bad, but there's still some glimmer of hope. I hope whenever Kathleen Kennedy resigns or she leaves, steps down, hopefully she has a good retirement, because, you know, she's not fit to run Star Wars. Only reason she even is running is because she's friends with George Lucas. And I'm not saying that everything that she did was bad. There's still good stuff. There are still good stories being told. Also, the comic books. There are some good comics. I haven't read any of them, but I've heard that there's a bunch of good comics. Also, there's a bunch of shows that are good. The Mandalorian's great. A lot of Disney Plus shows are great, except for the Book of Boba Fett. That one's crap. But everything else, they have a really good, good to bad ratio when it comes to shows. Like, I would say 95% of the shows that they made are actually well received. Actually, I say 90, because the Obi-Wan Kenobi show is not well received either. But I still like the show anyway. So, yeah, I'm gonna end it here. Do you like Disney Star Wars? Probably not. You're probably under the impression that they're a horrible company. They should probably just get a new CEO, which I agree, they should. But it's under Kathleen Kennedy to actually resign, because she is the person in power. No one can really, take that position away unless she does something really bad. But you can't really do anything about it. You just gotta wait. Star Wars eventually has to be good again. So there is some glimmer of hope. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are proving that there is hope for a good future for Star Wars. So if you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe. I'm gonna go now. So goodbye, everyone.